It always has to start off with a goof up. So, no worries. Hello, rock stars. Welcome to the electrifying premiere of our Dock and Roll webinar series brought to you by FlytNow. Well, without a doubt, the introduction of DJI Dock to the market has been a game changer for the industry and a significant step towards achieving true autonomy in drone operations. At this Dock and Roll gig, we are going to jam with some of the leading drone solution providers and value-added resellers from all across the globe to share their chart-topping insights and experiences in deploying and operating these machines. Today, we'll dive deep into DJI Dock is revolutionizing asset operations and management processes with a focus in the energy industry, just like a legendary guitar solo. And to strike the first chord, I would like to welcome a very special guest on stage. So please turn on your flashlights to welcome Chris Fink, founder and CEO of UVT, a leading solutions provider from the United States. Since establishing UVT in 2014, Chris has grown his drone and robotics dealership to support more than 2,400 government agencies and businesses nationwide, making UVT one of the largest uncrewed vehicle distributors in America. With a history in public safety and a commitment to serve those who serve us, Chris founded UVT out of a passion for ensuring our nation's first responders and frontline workers always have a resource they can rely on when duty calls. As a thought leader in the commercial drone industry, Chris sees autonomous drones and robotic systems as the future of work worldwide and is helping to pave the way for organizations to easily and efficiently implement remote operations. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me. I just have to say I have always wanted to be a rock star and just did it. I'm a rock star now, thanks to you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'd also like to welcome my colleague and band member of the day, Achal. Achal is the Director of Business Development at FlytBase, and he's going to share how FlytNow is enabling remote drone operations. For everybody in the audience, sorry, Achal, for cutting you through.
Yes, thank you, Vaishali. Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
So for everybody in the audience, please know that this jam session is being recorded and we are going to publish it online soon. At the end of the session, we are going to open the house for a round of Q&A. So please type in your questions or song suggestions in the Q&A tab and we'll answer them at the end of the session. So with that, over to you, Chris.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having us, Vaishali. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. So kind of like that amazing bio that you read states, autonomous operations, remote operations. So in our world, that's defined as drones as first responder, or autonomous operations is kind of what we're just kind of calling the blanket enterprise operations in energy and utility. And so, you know, our company is responsible for sort of a soup to nuts, a turnkey solution, right? And FlytBase and FlytNow play a critical role in that. Obviously, we can buy DJI docks from DJI all day. We can drop them off on a customer's doorstep or forklift them up on top of a roof. But what then, right? Drones, throughout the history of drones, it's been, okay, the drone's cool, but what do we do with that data? How do we secure that data? How do we get that data visible by other people, other decision makers and stakeholders? And so UVT's job is to come in as a turnkey solutions provider, all the way from that very consultative approach, understanding the customer better. Is this product going to work for you? What are you actually trying to do? What do you need that deliverable to look like? Leveraging our experience in utility, energy, public safety, et cetera. And then obviously leveraging industry partners like yourselves, all the way from that to final delivery, delivering the hardware, delivering the software packages, installing it. You know, these docks are not going to be anybody's docks, whether it's DJI or somebody else. They're not going to be just a drone that you buy off of a website or send us a PO for. We just ship it to you and say, yeah, let's have a quick call, and then you go to work. There's going to be, we've already done it. We've done 2 successful deployments already. It's a pretty big lift to make sure that the site that you're installing it on is correct, that you have connectivity, that you have suitable power and all that kind of stuff. And that's really where we come in. And then we combine all of that through systems like FlytBase and FlytNow, and then some of our other software partners, you know, in across the globe, really. So thanks for having me.
Great. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so UVT, so we were founded in 2014. I started the company in the Orlando, Florida area. I was a drone operator myself, so I was out doing construction progression photography. Through that, I met a lot of really good people, some of them firefighters, some of them law enforcement, mainly because back then a random person wearing a button-down shirt standing in the middle of a construction site with his little home-built F450 drone and a GoPro, it generates some interest. And so had a lot of really good conversations and really learned quickly that not only does public safety not have a resource at that time, did not have a resource to call on. If they had their own drone and there was an issue, nobody was really doing it, right? You had some hardware out there, but it was mostly DIY. And so I created UVT to be that resource for not just public safety, but what we call frontline workers. So linemen, line women, line people, if you want to call them that, solar technicians, PV technicians, O&M, all of that. So our job and the reason we exist and the reason we get up in the morning is to support those frontline workers with our knowledge, experience, and really kind of having that customer service and customer success follow them through the whole process, whether they buy one, Mini 3 Pro or they buy a fleet of 100 DJI Docks, we're going to be there to support them on it. So. Yeah, and so part of that, and really the reason we're here is what we're calling our Rapid Robotic Response Program, or UVT R3. So, obviously in like I kind of explained, we've got DFR, drones as first responder, and then we have sort of our enterprise space, which is going to be more of that autonomous operations, which we've kind of collectively call the Rapid Robotic Response Program. This stuff is still super new. We've had our DJI Dock now, I think, for almost 2 months. It'll be at the end of April, it'll be 2 months. So very new product. We've done a couple of deployments. And so we leverage our experience both in the hardware and software space, being boots on the ground, and a network of nationwide dock technicians that's continuing to grow as we speak. We are heavily focused on the United States, but if there are any global partners out there that are looking for assistance, you're more than welcome to contact me. You can see our website in my tagline there. If that's visible to you, I can at least see it. And I'd love to chat. So we leverage that network and our experience, as well as partners like DJI and other manufacturers, Skydio and others, in the future to come, as well as FlytBase with FlytNow to again provide that turnkey solution through our Rapid Robotic Response Program. The age of technology. So with DJI Dock, the goal here is to, like I've said before to some of these other folks that are probably listening, is we're actually putting drones to work for us rather than with us, right? So, the history of autonomy, the definition of autonomy has always been, oh, that's cool, the drone can fly itself, but I've still got to be there. And I'm not even talking about regulatory, right? Because we're talking to a global audience here. Everybody's different. But you can actually now, with DJI Dock and other solutions, you can deploy these things completely remotely with no human element involved other than maybe remote monitoring. And then, of course, that deliverable, right? I mean, these drones are going to go out, they're going to lower the cost of labor for pilot teams, and they're going to, really automate operations, right? Anybody can go out with a, DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise or another drone, program a mission while you're standing there holding the controller and you watch it. And that's really cool. That's awesome. That's why we all got into this industry probably. But now you can basically take that component completely remotely out in the middle of nowhere. And when you combine it with things like Starlink or other remote communication technology, you can pretty much, in most cases, put asterisk in here, certain things apply, but in most cases, you could deploy these things in just about any environment, removing that human element on site, increasing safety, lowering the cost of labor, and you also don't need those highly skilled, experienced pilots on site any longer. Obviously, you still want those. This isn't going to replace or displace those jobs, right? We're just going to kind of reallocate those resources. The whole reason drones and robotics exist is to work for us, not just with us, and to keep us safe. And so to overcome those challenges, DJI has come up with the DJI Dock, which can be used with the DJI M30 dock version or the DJI M30T dock version. It is a different aircraft. All the internals are the same. It's just the landing mechanism and charging mechanism is different. So. Yeah, so like I said earlier, we've had two successful deployments already. One is actually still ongoing. We're going to be tearing that down beginning of next week. And so we've got two successful long-term, right? You know, these days, when I say back in the day in this industry, that means like a year ago because these things move so fast. So long-term, as far as DJI Dock goes, is two roughly 30-day deployments. And our first one's with NL Green Power. So NL is they're a global energy company doing renewables and T&D, transmission, distribution, solar, et cetera. And then our other ones with Ozarks Electric. And we'll go over each of those real briefly here in the next slide or two. Perfect. So NL Green Power, like I said, this was at their Lilly Solar Substation, which is located in beautiful Kaufman County, Texas. Kaufman County it's a beautiful area, but it gets hot and they have really bad storms. So we were admittedly a little bit nervous about installing the DJI Dock. We work closely with DJI's engineers, and we even asked them, hey, you know, what's the hail rating on the DJI Dock? Because we get hail in the United States. And they said, well, there isn't one, but if it doesn't work, we'll just replace it for you. So thanks for testing it. And so we love that, right? Anybody that knows me knows I'm a super nerd when it comes to hardware and testing things. And so they literally said, we don't know, but put it out there and let's see what happens. So luckily we didn't get any major hail, but we did get some severe storms, et cetera. And so Lilly is situated in Kaufman or Scurry, Texas. It's a 181 megawatt solar farm. One interesting thing about Lilly is they have a BESS, which is basically battery storage on site. So they actually have on-site BESS. I think don't quote me, but I think they were one of the first, if not the first, substations in the US to have BESS installed. And so they've got solar, they've got battery, obviously to house that power. And then they've also got a substation to, of course, distribute that power elsewhere. So this was the first rooftop deployment of a DJI Dock in the United States. It was installed, you'll see in a second, it was installed on top of an O&M building, which is basically a shipping container. So we did have to forklift it up there. So we learned quite a bit about just the intricacies of that and being safe, obviously, with personal protective equipment and things like that. And like I said there, the last bullet point, this area was prone to severe weather. One concern we had, frankly, was that you have a 200-pound DJI Dock sitting up on top of an O&M building. We truthfully did not strap it down because we didn't want to drill holes for a temporary install into their shipping container, but it handled winds in excess of 45 miles an hour. It took off and landed in pretty severe weather. And neat thing about the DJI Dock is that it has that built-in weather station. So it's constantly monitoring the conditions. If conditions either change prior to the mission, it's not going to open or launch. And if it changes during the mission, it has multiple fail-safes built in as well. Here on the next slide, you'll see an image of how we installed it. So we did have to forklift it up there on top of the O&M building there. So we're standing there with our partners at Raptor Maps, as well as obviously NL Green Power, and DJI was on site as well. You've got Grant and Michael on the right side there. If anybody knows who they are visible. So we put it up on top. Now, one consideration here at Lilly was it's a rural area, right? So we didn't have like a dedicated fiber connection. We didn't have any of that. We tried various communication methods. We finally came up with a sort of amalgamation of various connectivity, and luckily we were able to get connected to their network at some point or at one point during the deployment. But it's hard to see in that image, but going off the left side of the dock is the power feed. So we just have a hard side cable or a hard connection cable there. And on the front of it, you can't see, but there's a little access panel that drops down, and you've actually got power terminals situated in there. So we've got power going to the left. It runs down the side of the building. It's sort of affixed temporarily to the O&M building, and it plugs in over there, and it is grounded through a grounding bolt on top of the building up there. You have to have about a less than a 10 ohm resistance on that ground. Again, going back to the severe weather. And then coming out of the right side of the aircraft, all kind of coming out of that panel, but it goes down and over, is your connectivity. So this is hardwired through Ethernet. It's got an RJ45 connection in there. So those are the two connections going out there, and it was a good deployment. It's still there. It might even be flying right now. I don't have it open, but it is there. So the next deployment we did, this one's close to home. So it's located here in beautiful Fayetteville, Arkansas. This was with our local electric cooperative, Ozarks Electric. We've been supporting Ozarks for a number of years. They were actually one of my target customers when I relocated the business here to Arkansas from Florida. So it's really cool to kind of see not only UVT's growth and our ability to support them, but also Ozarks growth and their technology. And they're making huge investments into technology So this is at the Eddie Walker substation here in Fayetteville. It's about southwest Fayetteville, technically. They've got, similarly, their substation, which of course comes with transmission and distribution at this location, but they also have telecom. And then it's kind of a little note is it's actually adjacent to a solar array that they don't own or operate, but there is a partnership there. So it was kind of neat. This was our first deployment actually before NL. It was neat to kind of see, even just physically be on site and see the technology. You've got substation, telecom, DJI Dock, and it really makes you realize that one of those systems, one of the DJI Dock or one or two of them or another docking system can really cover a lot of ground completely remotely and autonomously at one location. And the same goes for NL. So this one is, the telecom piece is really unique. So we were super lucky to be working with these guys because they have a subsidiary called Ozarks Go. So Ozarks Electric Cooperative has a subsidiary of Ozarks Go, and Ozarks Go is rolling out a very robust fiber network to both residential and business customers. Of course, because this was one of their sites, we happen to have direct access to a fiber hut. So could not have had a better installation. So we were able to pipe directly into their fiber network through a fiber hut on site. They were easy to work with. They had a pad there. Connections were coming out much less, what's the right way to say it, much less rural, a little bit more of a suburban area, if you will, but still all the same complications. We do get severe weather here in Arkansas. We actually had the dock go offline at one point because the internet connection went down just because some moisture got into one of our cabinets in there that we actually learned and fixed. So that was really good. And then one interesting thing too about these guys is vegetation management. So, thinking down the line, of course, use cases right now are limited just because the system is so new and we're still testing it and improving it. But things like vegetation management with maybe multiple systems in there, maybe you have a multispectral, something else, you can run those lines, those right of ways, check the vegetation. If you see something, the other drone can be deployed, all through a system like FlytBase and FlytNow to really kind of culminate all that data. And then here in the next slide, you'll see our installation. So Ozarks was kind enough to run to their shop. You'll see the dock is sitting on it's a transformer pad basically, but it's a piece of concrete. It was low enough here that we didn't feel like it was going to slide off like we did it in NL, so less risky. And then all your power cables and such run out of the dock over to that fiber hut there behind the truck. And so the goal here was just to kind of go up. You can see it's sort of in the background there, that is a distribution line coming off of that substation. And then to our left in this perspective, there's a large transmission line that goes down for quite a while. So we were able to, of course, maintaining visual line of sight, all 107 operations, because we do not have BD loss at these two temporary locations, but we were able to run pretty much the entire perimeter, definitely the substation and even around the solar array, but all the way down the transmission line and back around through the distribution connection as well. So really cool stuff.
All right, thank you so much, Chris, for walking us through the two different deployments that the DJI Dock were deployed in the last couple of months. With that, I would like to pass it over to Achal to lead the conversation from the FlytNow side. Over to you, Achal.
Great. Thank you, Vaishali. Thank you, Chris, for that entire introduction and how you have been leveraging DJI Dock and deploying it for energy use cases. It's great to hear. And these are like the start of these kind of deployments, right? So these are the first ones which are being deployed. So great to see what is happening there. So hi, everybody. This is Achal. I am the Director of Business Development. I'll walk you through more details about FlytNow and how we have designed the entire system to deploy your automated drone docks with our software. So as you can see, FlytNow is powered by FlytBase, and we are an enterprise drone autonomy platform which powers your drone docking stations and your command centers. And we'll see more about that in the coming slides. So over the last 3 to 4 years, in the next slide, I would like to just quickly point out that the global impact that FlytBase and FlytNow has been doing in terms of deploying these automated drone-in-the-box systems around the globe. So we've partnered with a lot of drone solution providers, docking station manufacturers, drone providers to deploy these docking stations all across the globe. And this has been done across use cases, where in the next slide, you'll see a lot of images of command centers being set up in Italy, Malaysia, Norway, Saudi Arabia, and different areas around the globe, including the US, where we have been powering these command control stations with our software. So you can connect your drone and docking stations and fully automate your remote operations. So FlytNow has been a leading software provider, an enterprise drone RP platform with a very focus on enterprise deployments. So be it the use cases that we'll see in the next slide, where you have construction site management, security patrols, sonar panel inspections, power plant inspections, smart city projects, emergency response, or public safety, where you need to send the drone for any kind of a first response use case. Or it could be rail yards, where you need to inspect and take imagery on the railway tracks, or be it traffic management. We have deployed FlytNow for all the applications over the last 3 years. There are a couple of links down on the slides where you can head to flytnow.com/deployments and flytnow.com/success stories to learn about these case studies, which would be sent to you after the webinar as well. So let's take a quick sneak peek of how FlytNow works with DJI Dock. So I'll let Vaishali quickly run a video where we see how.
Sorry for cutting you through again, Achal. Please go ahead.
Right, that was a really nice video. So we'll see a dedicated demo video after the presentation slide. But now I'd like to take you into more details of FlytNow. And over the last 3 years, we have been very focused on working with enterprises and our partners, where we have built the entire system for enterprises. So any enterprise user, for the use cases that we saw in the previous slide, FlytNow has been built for such kind of users. So let's deep dive into this and see what makes it enterprise grade. So first and foremost is, of course, the safety first approach, where FlytNow has been built with number of safety and fail-safe feature to its core, ensuring highest level of operation safety at all times. So be it your remote control link loss, like the RF link loss, or it's an LTE link loss where you're losing a 4G or 5G connection to your docking station, or you're losing maybe a power outage at your command center, where you have, say, 3 drones up in the air using docks, and you wish to configure that fail-safe. So what happens if I lose connectivity at my command center? We have designed multiple fail-safes which are user configurable. So as per your SOPs, it could be configured according to your operations. And the drone, all the fail-safes ensure that appropriate fallback mechanisms are triggered in those kinds of situations. Moving to the next slide, FlytNow has been, of course, designed in keeping data privacy and private cloud storage in mind. So your data stays with you. We have the detailed documentation available where you can have your AWS S3 or Microsoft Azure account set up, where your data would still could be directly transferred to your AWS account. And to ensure this, we have all the connectors where you can set up your private cloud storage and enable recording and replay of videos on the FlytNow dashboard. So you hold the access, you give the access, and then you can see those videos on the FlytNow dashboard, where on the other side, FlytNow directly shows those kind of video images on your private cloud, so your data stays with you. Similarly, on the next slide, we talk about end-to-end security. So not only your data is being stored, but what happens when it is being transmitted. So of course, it is end-to-end encrypted. We have multi-factor authentication. We have SML-based single sign-on, as well as granular roles and permissions. So you have the entire control in terms of the security data and how it is going. Moving on, where a lot of customers are into enterprises like private sector, where they already have their own cloud system. So one is, of course, you use the multi-tenant system, which is deployed on public cloud. So we have deployments in the US and multiple countries where FlytNow runs specifically on the country-based servers. Like in the US, we have US-based servers, and that would be served from that location. But in case you're working with enterprises where they want a single tenant system or something on a private cloud where they don't want any other to access any kind of data, or even they don't want somebody to access that dashboard, we have private cloud deployment options. So these flexible deployment options like private cloud allow FlytNow solution to be deployed on a customer's private cloud instance, such as AWS, and could be entirely managed by FlytBase, where the customer owns that entire cloud. On the other side, if customer wants entirely on-prem, where they want to manage everything, they have internal servers, FlytNow can be deployed on private servers to enable secure drone operations. So this has been a single requirement coming from a lot of partners where they work with large enterprises who already have their private servers, they have a lot of data, they have a lot of compliance, and this is where these flexible deployment options come into the picture with FlytNow. So depending upon which customers you're working with or what kind of deployment you need, FlytNow can suit your needs with these flexible deployment options. Moving on, of course, all these deployments would have large teams. So FlytNow has been designed for enterprise teams where you can set all the access level, granular roles access can be done in terms of the captains to admins to operators, where you can give specific access to every user, and you can create organizations for enterprises. So this is an enterprise add-on which could be configured specifically for the organization, where they can manage the entire data as well as the access levels for the specific people or users in the organization. Next, what becomes very important once this is deployed is the enterprise SLA, enterprise support, and the SLA, where all the customers which are using FlytNow require real-time troubleshooting, or they need help while scaling or optimizing their drone operations, or anything that gets stuck. We have a dedicated enterprise support team which ensures onboarding and training for not only our partners, for also train our partners so they can provide the level 1 support for the customers. And customers also have access to all the documentation, and support panels are available where they can ask questions and they can get answers. Specifically for very crucial deployments where they need technical consulting or need priority email, chat, and phone support, we have dedicated teams which are available to support these customers for their real-time deployments, troubleshooting, or being optimizing their drone operations as they are scaling these operations. In the next slide, Vaishali, let's talk about the topic, the BVLOS, right? How you get started with something, how you're going to fully automate. So this has been, of course, the major, if you'd say, roadblock or something which everybody is looking to solve. Like how do I have BVLOS operations? Now, since being in this industry, we started really early. We started working with regulatory authorities, with our partners who are based in specific geography locations. So we are regulation ready, where we have worked closely with partners, where our partners have got waivers across countries for be it solar farm inspections, pipeline inspections, thermal power inspections, or even use cases like public safety, where you need to deploy the drone for specific fire response or an accident, and you can deploy those inside an urban environment. So the entire FlytNow platform is BVLOS ready, and the way we help our partners is being actually explained in next slide. So let's take a deep dive of how this is happening. So first is, of course, the technology, where we have integrations with all the BVLOS enablement partners. So we closely work with partners who provide detect and avoid. Like we partner with Iris Automation, who have CAS-AG system, which can detect cooperative and non-cooperative aircraft in an operational environment. We closely work with providers technology providers who provide ADS-B technology. So even if your dock or drone is off, you are able to see the airspace inside FlytNow. Then, of course, specifically to your geography, you would need a specific UTM where you can have airspace awareness. So depending upon where you're located, which UTM serves the purpose for you, FlytNow can integrate that kind of UTM. As you scale to remote areas, connectivity would become a problem. You can leverage your partners like L-Side Halo for uninterrupted communication for remote operations, as well as you can integrate with other 5G, 4G modules to get connectivity to the dock. In terms of areas where you're deploying in highly populated areas or flying with people, you're looking for those kind of waivers. Parachute becomes really important, especially for public safety, where you could be flying. So you partnered with AVSS, DRS for safe landings during emergencies, as well as all the documentation which is required for your parachutes to be tightly integrated with your dock for your weaveless application. Let's go to the next slide. This is something which we'll be taking a deep dive in the upcoming sessions in Dock and Roll series. But just to touch upon that, FlytNow has specific features which makes operation even safer for specific use cases. For example, autonomous dynamic path planner, which allows the drone to avoid no-fly zones to reach a point or while coming back to the home location or the docking station location to land. So FlytNow adds intelligent layer on the drone, which allows you to allows the drone to go around the no-fly zones and reach that point. Really useful for public safety use cases where you don't know where you're sending the drone, but you know there are no-fly zones in between. Same as like corridor fly zones, but this is more kind of a linear asset where you only have a right of way to fly over a highway or a rail line or a pipeline where you don't want the drone to go outside that area. Now your drone needs to fly in that particular corridor and even come back to the docking station using that corridor. And of course, the basic geofence where you can, of course, mark the area like a polygon or a cylindrical area that could be planned on FlytNow where drone would not go out of that particular area. Moving to the next slide, let's talk about the data logs and reports. This is very crucial. So as you start flying with this and you're applying for your approvals and you want to ensure that your operations are safe, FlytNow provides you a way to create detailed data logs and reports for your safety cases, where detailed data and logs are integrated component of it, where FlytNow offers exhaustive logs, which can be also downloaded in the PDF format and directly submitted to the authorities who are looking to evaluate your flights. So FlytNow has been designed in a way where all these data logs and reports are available, so you can build your safety case as you're starting to fly your drones with the docking stations. Now, with all these information, of course, what we have done is we have created ready templates for SORA documentation, CONOPS, your CONOPS write-up, and multiple things where we help drone solution providers with relevant information and documentation to facilitate process of submitting weaveless waiver and applications. So, and this comes from worldwide knowledge. So it's not just specific to one country, where we have been deploying and doing weaveless operations today in 8+ countries, including the US, where we can help you answer questions and help you fill your SORA and CONOPS application in terms of FlytNow and making your flights safer. So as you closely work with us, we will be helping you with specific templates, tools where you can create these applications and apply for weaveless waivers really fast. Now let's move to the next topic, which is specifically to apps and integration. So as you may be working with a lot of enterprise customers, you would be looking like they would be coming at that, can you integrate alarms? Can you integrate my video management system? I use Gentech, I use Milestone, I use a different kind of ERP solution where I want my data to be in. I already use a software to process my maps or the images. I have analysis software which kind of does traffic monitoring, or I'm simply using Waze where I'm getting all the data in my computer-aided dispatch system like the CAD systems. How do you closely work with these guys and help them leverage this technology closely together with the docking station? So this is where the apps and integrations come into the picture. Well, let's go to the next slide, Vaishali, where we provide specific APIs and add-ons for integrations and workflow automations. So be it the ERP solutions, be it alarms, it could be like alarms or a pipeline, alarms over a site where they want the drone to go to a particular location if the alarm goes off, or be it like a computer-aided dispatch, the CAD systems, where as soon as you get a 911 call, you want this drone to go to that particular location, avoiding no-fly zones. So the things that we saw in the previous slides, FlytNow can provide those kind of API integrations with existing systems. And this is where the enterprises can have efficient operations and include drone docks with their existing business workflow. The next one is specifically integrating apps. So FlytNow enables users to integrate third-party apps. It could be both public and private for a domain-specific capabilities. So if you're specific into security, or you're in construction, you are in energy, you might be already using multiple apps to process your data. And now you want to leverage docking station and you automate your process. So no longer right now going to the site, flying the drone, taking out the data on the SD card, and then coming back, uploading, processing. It could be fully automated, where you could have third-party integrations with FlytNow for the existing domain-specific apps, and which could be accessed directly with FlytNow. So we're closely working with several partners around the globe to bring these applications to the private or public app library into FlytNow. On the other side, of course, so if you wish to build applications specific to your customer needs, right, or your internal usage, FlytNow provides an app builder to quickly build these configurable dashboard, custom apps, and address specific end user requirement. There could be customers asking you for specific dashboards where they want to see drone video feed, CCTV camera feed, access control, and they want a specific application to be built. Or it could be regulatory authorities asking you for a view-only access dashboard where they just want to track the drones flying in that region. It could be a local airport, or it could be a authority who would like to oversee as they are giving you all the waiver and regulatory permissions in that particular area. FlytNow allows you to build your own apps on the platform. And this is something that we'll be talking more in the coming sessions in the Dock and Roll series. Of course, now moving forward, documentation becomes really important as you're deploying this in different areas with different applications and leveraging FlytNow for different kind of workflows. So we have extensive product documentations with ChatGPT integration, so which is supercharged with AI, where you can ask questions to FlytNow documentation and help you with the detailed information, guides, and resources on all aspects of the FlytNow platform. So you can head to docs.flytnow.com and experience documentation and the AI integration by yourself. Yeah, thank you, Vaishali, for the next slide. So we also offer a certification program. Now, this is really important as enterprises start using this, where they need to have certified people, where they can have comprehensive understanding of the platform, ensuring the safety of operation is never compromised. The operators or anybody who is responsible for these drone operations know where to go in the particular dashboard area, where no human errors occur in that area, or it is minimized by the humans who are operating the system. So the certification program gives you the entire training as well as all the assessment, and then you could be certified by FlytNow to operate docking stations using FlytNow. So these are some add-on benefits with FlytNow. We have been deploying in the energy sector. So this is one of the testimonial from customer who have been using FlytNow, where they wanted to optimize their inspection routine at the power plant, since the area was too large for inspectors to cover in a single shift. So they decided to employ FlytNow due to a superior unattended flight technology and the affordable price that we offer, where they can automate this entirely with their drones and docking station. So this is about the features or the specific points where FlytNow could be used to deploy enterprise to enterprise customers. And specifically, we spoke about how it is securing your data, the safety case, the BVLOS aspect, the apps and integrations where you can have multiple aspects integrated for the custom user workflow. So let's take a look at this video. This is demo video which shows DJI Dock in action with FlytNow. So I'll let Vaishali play this and let's take a deeper look. So what you saw there is the entire mission that happened to DJI Dock. We'll now see what kind of data have been collected. So this is being done entirely right now from remote location. Where we just do a mission with automated waypoints, and there was an action for every waypoint where how the camera was moving, the gimbal was moving. And then you have the detailed flight logs available in FlytNow. This could be also downloaded as I was speaking before. So you have a PDF report immediately available with all the report of the flights, the entire overview, and then you have the entire flight path. So this PDF is available immediately after the mission. And then, of course, as we were talking about the data, it directly stores over your private AWS S3 storage. So you have all that data on your own cloud, which could be viewed also in gallery once you get the access. So all those images and everything is available in the gallery. There are, of course, different kind of integrations which are available on station depending upon what use case you're deploying for. So that was a quick demo. Happy to take more questions on this. I can see a lot of questions coming in there. But that is what I have from my end. So yeah, over to you, Vaishali.
Thank you, Achal. Thank you so much for sharing those insights with all of us, especially taking such a deep dive through FlytNow. I will now like to open the house for Q&A. I already see a lot of questions coming in, so I'll just go through the questions. So there's a question around using a dock for surveillance in a construction area with limited cell or internet service. Is that possible? Achal, would you like to take that? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that question. So hi, Louis, thank you for that question. So of course, that is possible. You would need on-prem deployment in such cases where you have limited connectivity. So things could run on a on-premise server, and then you would just need internet to fetch your Google Maps or specific components which are required, really critical for your drone operations, and you can deploy it in an area where you have limited cell or internet service.
Right. Thanks, Achal. There is another question around, could people conduct mapping missions, cartographic missions with the software?
Right. So we have a grid mission plan where you can plan the entire the mission for your photogrammetry or such kind of use cases, and then you can leverage other apps to process data, where we're building integrations with these apps for post processing.
Right. So a lot of so Louis again had another question around the AWS or other systems seem to work well in major cities, but since he'll be operating in Panama, Central America, which is a remote site, he's looking for a standalone solution. So with the private deployments, that's possible. If you would like to answer more on that.
Sure. So yeah, as I answered the previous questions, on-prem can solve your problem, where it could be deployed on on-premise server, and that could be the data could be stored on that particular aspect. So that is something which is definitely possible for countries where you want to have all the things deployed in your country, have data residency laws and everything.
Right. Okay. Also, there's a question around, is the dashboard available in French?
Yes. So you can go to the FlytNow, and it is currently available in French, Spanish, Italian, German, and different languages as well. So you can head to FlytNow and you'd be able to change the language.
Right. I think I saw another question around the approvals required for FAA or the restrictions. So, Chris, do you want to share some insights on the what kind of processes do people need to ensure before getting the dog deployment done? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the things are changing a little bit here and there. We're starting to see more and more approvals by the FAA for true BV loss operations. Again, all of our testing was done with 107 manual operations, but we do have an entire regulatory team on hand. A lot of it's going to depend on the airspace, right? If you're deploying a dock at a power station right next to an Air Force base, you're going to have to go through some steps to get that done. But I do think that over time, even in the next few months, as these docks make their way out there and we see more and more regulatory approvals, then the rails will get greased. But there's just a lot of things involved, Glenn, in that question, or in that question, and that answer of the question. But you can just email us at hello@uvt.us, or put your email in the comments, and we'd be happy to put you in touch with our regulatory team, and they can do a quick review of airspace and where your sites are. There's a lot of variables involved, but we're here to help with all of that for sure.
Right. Thanks, Chris. I think there's another question that keeps popping up every time. That is, in order to, what are the steps or what are the different aspects that people need to look into before selecting the site for deployment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way the dock operates is it does use RTK. So the dock itself serves as an RTK base station for the drone. So things to keep in mind are where the drone's going to be in relation to the dock. Obviously, in the initial 107 days here in the US with the FAA regulations, you're going to have to stay within visual line of sight anyway. But in a long-term deployment, you need to be thinking about where the dock is going to be in relation to the drone. So if you're going to have the drone as part of your FlytNow mission, ascend to a certain altitude, go a mile down the road or half a mile down the road, and then descend behind regulation, or behind, I read the word regulations, behind obstructions, it's going to potentially lose connection with that RTK base that is the dock. So elevation of where the dock is, and then also the way the dock also works is you set up an alternate landing site. So if the drone's out on a mission, it's running its mission, and for some reason the dock doesn't open, somebody cuts the power cord, and there's the battery backup's dead, and a severe instance, you want to kind of plan out where your alternate landing site's going to be. It doesn't have to be super close to where the dock is, but you're going to want to think about, like, for example, at our NL deployment, there was a lot of vehicle traffic going around that O&M building. So if we chose an alternate landing site in an area that maybe there's no car in right now, but then tomorrow a delivery comes in and the drone has to land there and a big truck comes through. So a lot of that has to go into your fail-safe planning. And then I would say two of the other primary components are going to be power and connectivity. The drone doesn't take a ton of power. It just needs a dedicated power connection, ideally on its own battery backup, though the dock does have built-in lightning suppression and its own uninterruptible power supply. So power, and then connectivity is a big one. And FlytNow might be able to help with some of that if it's going to be running locally or something, or some other local instance where if you do lose internet, it can continue its mission. And currently, even with DJI Flight Hub and FlytNow, if you lose internet while it's on a mission, the drone's not just going to land. It's going to continue its mission based off of the parameters that you set in your mission. So connectivity is super important once you actually have a remote dock, right? These days, like we have people on site, they're flying right now. I saw a notification in Slack that the drone went up. So from a remote perspective, if you lose connectivity, maybe it doesn't impact the mission, but now you don't have access to that dock. You can't check the weather station. You can't check the camera. And in the long-term play, you've just deployed that dock in a rural location. So you want reliable power, reliable connectivity. And then as far as the site goes, obviously airspace, think of obstructions. It might take 2 docks, 3 docks, depending on where you're going to be scanning, so that you don't have obstructions in between it to break that RTK link. But again, there's a lot of fail safes, both on the hardware side and the software side built in. And for customers in North America, especially, reach out to us. We can do those site surveys for you. We can do RF frequency analysis, all that as well, just to ensure that everything's going to go as smoothly as possible.
Right. Thanks again for the detailed explanation, Chris. I think I have a few questions for Achal as well. Are there options to import shape files for infrastructure asset identification onto FlytNow?
Great. So this is something which is available as an enterprise add-on. So once you have the system, you can connect with our customer success team, and they'll be happy to support you and help you with uploading your shape files.
Right. Thanks, Achal. I think we have a few questions around, do we also have connections with Transport Canada, or are there any partners in Canada that can help? So if you could maybe share some insights on that.
Sure. So as FlytNow, we really closely work with a lot of partners. So specifically talking about Canada, we have specific drone solution providers who already have got VVLS approvals. So in case you're needing some help, they could be the right partners to work with. Or if you're already closely working with Transport Canada, we can help you with more documentation from FlytNow side. So apply for your VVL. So totally depends where you're positioned, what kind of application are you doing. We have several partners available in Canada who can help you with VVLOS operations in the Canadian geography.
Right. Thanks, Achal. And Kevin asks if you could remind him on the AI build features for from the data analysis standpoint.
Right. So FlytNow has enterprise add-ons specifically for security use cases or public safety use cases, like we saw detecting cars, people, and specific common objects. So that is something which could be provided by FlytNow. But in case you are in a very specific domain-specific application, like you're doing power plant inspections, pipeline inspection, FlytNow allows you to have your own AI app where you can integrate with a third-party app, or you could have your own data set trained if you're really closely working in that kind of a sector, which could be integrated, and that data could be processed using AI modules.
Right. Thanks, Achal. We have, I think, one other question just came in. Is FlytNow only compatible with the DJI Dock?
FlytNow is, of course, compatible with DJI Dock, but other docks as well. So you can head to flytnow.com and learn more about what are the hardware options which are available.
Right. Thanks, Achal. I think we are already running out of time, and we have a few more questions. We should be able to answer them post the event over email, and you can even reach out to Chris or FlytBase, the websites UVT.us and FlytNow.com. So you can just head over to the pages and drop in your questions to the respective teams, and you should be able to get that answered shortly. Chris, again, thank you for your time today. Would you like to share some closing thoughts?
No, I think we covered it very well. I really appreciate the partnership and your support throughout the webinar planning process by Shali and Achal. I really appreciate it. Yeah, reach out to us, www.uvt.us, or it's hello@uvt.us for email. We do support North America currently, but anybody, information is always free, I like to say. So reach out anytime, and thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Achal, would you like to share some
I would like to thank Chris first for his time and sharing the insight, and we really value the partnership and what we're doing together in North American region. So thank you so much for coming on the webinar, and I would like to thank everybody who has joined us today learning this. This would be available as a recording, so feel free to go through it again to learn more. I've also shared my LinkedIn, so if you'd like to directly connect with me and ask questions, happy to answer it over LinkedIn. And we would be also available in person for meeting at AUVSI Exponential. I think Chris would be also there. So in case you want to meet up on our booth, you can come to our booth. FlytBase booth would be at 3909, if not wrong. And you can meet us in person. So yeah, look forward to seeing you if you're heading up to AUVSI Exponential.
That's right, Achal. Thank you all again. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you all have a great day out there.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yes.